guys, so the video that was made sitting here a week ago, it was 15 degrees and that door was open and it was a beautiful warm day. Today's about 6 degrees and there's a really cold wind blowing. So it does that in spring in Japan. It'll start to get warm and it gets cold again, it'll get warm again. We've got a couple of close to zero nights coming up, so it does that, spring in Japan. So a couple of you might have seen a couple of videos we've made recently talking about Japanese exceptionalism and elements of Japanese life that some people, both Japanese people and non-Japanese people, perceive as being unique to Japan. Only in Japan is what we hear all the time, don't we? Only in Japan. So that, if you haven't seen those videos yet, check them out. Something happened yesterday that triggered this video. Was I have a dentist who's a really good dentist, and I have another, there's another dentist that I know who's sort of more of an acquaintance, and the dentist who's my dentist, who does the work on my teeth, is a skier, and every year he goes off to Nagano and goes skiing, and he does downhill racing, so he skis really fast. And I've said to him lots of times over the years, when he said he's going skiing, please be careful, because if you break your arm, you're not going to be any good to us, you know. And oh yeah, he says. So anyway, so in January he crashed and broke his collarbone, and he couldn't fix teeth for a couple of months. So this other dentist that I know knows him, so he's a mutual friend. And when I was talking to him yesterday, I said to him, I've told him so many times to be careful, because I knew, you know, if he crashed at those speeds, you know, that he wouldn't be able to work, and that, you know, it'd really mess up his life. You know, a dentist who can't work, it's a big deal. And here, the way the Japanese system works, he's the dentist. That this is the normal thing in Japan, is that the dentist or the doctor usually is the dentist or the doctor in the clinic, and so that if he can't work, it's a big problem, you know. And so I said, I told him, and so this guy said something. I said to him, oh, I didn't tell him that I'd told you so, you know what I mean? So when I saw him, you know, after he came back from hospital and he was back working again and he was doing some work on my teeth, I said, how are you going? How's your body? And I was compassionate to him and kind to him, and, you know, how you feeling? That was a hard time. And I didn't say, told you so, told you to be careful, because obviously that'd be a bit of a dick move, wouldn't it, to say something like that to him. He's suffered enough, you know, without wanting to rub it in. And I told you so. That's not going to be a helpful thing to say, is it? I said it to the other guy, and I warned him. I told him to be careful, and now he's done this. Poor guy's messed himself up, you know. But I think you guys would agree, that's just decency, isn't it? You know, if you sort of warn somebody about something and then something bad happens to them, I mean, he'd already suffered enough. For me to then say to him, I told you to be careful, it's not helpful, is it? You know, that's just not a kind thing to do, is it? So I didn't do that. I was just sort of, you know, how you going? And it's been hard for you, hasn't it? All in Japanese, right? So we always say, oh, taihen desu ne. You know, it's been hard, hasn't it? You know, and I was compassionate to him and telling him I was happy to have him back. So when I told this guy this other guy, that I told him what I'd said to the dentist, he said, oh, you're very Japanese. You're very Japanese. And because of these things we've been talking about lately, it really hit. And then after I said, you know, I left and went somewhere else, and I was thinking about it, I thought, I could think of lots of examples where that's happened to me in the past, where there's certain character traits that Japanese people see as being important to being a good Japanese person, right? So they things like that, kindness to other people, modesty is another one, humility and integrity and honesty and all those sort of things, all those positive human characteristics, right? They see that package of characteristics as being Japanese. And so as I drove away, I was thinking, like, all these examples kept coming back of different times Japanese people have said that to me. Oh, you're really Japanese. So an example might be that, you know, someone says to me, oh, your Japanese is really good, which it isn't, by the way. My Japanese is, you know, you get those immigrants that have lived in a country for years, but they still speak with a strong accent and their grammar's not very good. And that's me, right? So my Japanese isn't very good. So sometimes someone will say, oh, your Japanese is very good. And I go, oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. And then because I'm rejecting the compliment, which is what Japanese people do, they always reject the compliments. They go, oh, you're very Japanese, because I'm rejecting the compliment, right? And so many, so that's the modesty that they value. So it's really interesting that these positive human traits that would be considered to be positive human traits. I remember thinking when I first came here, a lot of the things that were difficult to deal with when I was here, when I first came here, and that are still difficult to deal with now, are usually things that do make you a better human being. So things like, a lot of the things I've made videos about over the years on how to do stuff in Japan. So the modesty thing, the kindness to other people, and not making everything about yourself, and all those positive traits, or not complaining about things, not complaining about other people, not talking critically about other people, all those sort of characteristics that can be hard for some of us, like myself, when we first come here, and continue to be hard, are things that are actually good human characteristics. That you know, there's some things like sometimes someone drives me nuts, you know, the grumpy old guy next door or something, but I can't complain to my wife about him because she'll see that as bad behaviour on my part, which it really is, right? So it's really interesting. A couple of interesting observations for me I find interesting is that one is that those positive characteristics that Japanese people value as being an important part of being Japanese, that if you display those characteristics, quite often they'll say, oh, you're very Japanese, right? Which is a really interesting thing, because that means that from their point of view, those behaviours are Japanese behaviours. So they're not saying, oh, you're a really nice person, or you're a really kind person, or that's very considerate of you, or you're very modest. They're not saying that. They're saying, oh, you're Japanese, which from their point of view is a compliment. But isn't it interesting that they perceive that those behaviours are Japanese? That it's sort of like it seems like they think that those behaviours are unique to Japan. Who's to say that kind behaviour that I exhibited to my dentist isn't a kind behaviour that I would have done when I lived in Australia, right? That it's part of my character. That they assume that is because of, oh, you're becoming Japanese, you know, you're behaving Japanese. Isn't that interesting? So there's a couple of things there. One is it's interesting that they value those positive characteristics, as people would around the world. And as I said in those last couple of videos on this similar topic, is nothing about this is unique to Japan, right? Nothing about this is unique to Japan. That you know, the thing that's unique about Japan is Japan as a package of things, good and bad things, is what makes Japan Japan. That particular combination of things is unique. The individual things aren't. And this is another example of that, where they seem to think that these positive human characteristics are Japanese characteristics. That we have these positive characteristics because of the Japaneseness of us, rather than these are just positive human characteristics that people around the world have, but they are particularly valued in Japan, or that they're considered to be important things in Japan as well. You know, not just, you know, whereas they seem to think it's unique, which is another one of these exceptionalism things, isn't it? The last video is about that they think that good human behaviour, those good human characteristics, is sort of Japanese characteristics, and that if you don't behave in those positive ways, that you're not Japanese, and that it's bad foreigner behaviour. Where in actual fact, this is pretty much the same anywhere in the world, isn't it? That the good behaviours are good behaviours and the bad behaviours are bad behaviours. It's not Japanese or not. It's not Japanese or not Japanese. It's good behaviour or bad behaviour, isn't it? So again, interesting. No doubt there'll be some of the people who watch our videos actually live in Japan. If you can think of any examples of people telling you that you're Japanese because you did some good behaviour, give us the examples, because often that's interesting with these sort of videos, is the people who live here will come up with other examples of these positive things, of these things that we're talking about. So interesting, isn't it? I was just trying to think. There's a couple others that are rattling around in my head. I can't quite grab them at the moment, but there's a couple of others where people have said to me where I've done something polite or done some good thing. I've just done some good thing, and they've gone, "Oh, you're Japanese. You're Japanese." So interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so food for thought. So yeah, hopefully some of the people that live here will be able to give us some more examples of when they've been told that they're Japanese because they behaved well. It's interesting, isn't it? It's a good lesson for us too. It means that the way we're perceived, we'll be perceived as more Japanese and more acceptable if we behave in the correct ways, than if we don't behave well, we'll be considered to be un-Japanese and not as accepted, which is basically what our videos have been saying for 15 years, as long as we've been making videos. That How to Do Stuff in Japan playlist is all about that. It's really just good behaviour. It's not just how, really those things, not being jealous and not being arrogant and not being selfish and not being, not doing those things, being kind and being considerate and being modest and being quiet and all those things. Interesting, isn't it? They're just good human traits. But it seems that a lot of Japanese people think that they're Japanese traits, which they are, but it's not unique to Japan, is it? Like everything else, it's not unique to Japan. So I don't know if I've expressed this as well as I would have liked to. It's quite hard. Some of these topics, you get a bit of an idea about one of these things, and it's often difficult to express it clearly, but I think you're getting the idea. These things, again, it's things that are not unique to Japan. It's not really Japanese exceptionalism, but it seems that a lot of Japanese people think it is, and non-Japanese people too. People tell you all the time about how amazing Japanese people are because they're so kind and so considerate and so this and so that, and it's sort of true because they value those things. That's what they aspire to. But it's not unique to Japan, isn't it? I would suggest that any style of Japanese person that you can find, you'll find another person that behaves in a similar way in another country in the world. None of it's unique, is it? It's all just human stuff. It's human behaviour, isn't it? It's not unique. It's not exceptional. It's just that those things are valued here. The same, I would suggest, the same as they're valued around the world. What country doesn't like? What people in what country don't like kind, considerate, quiet, modest, people with integrity, and all those other characteristics that they value here, cool people that don't get jealous and don't get aggressive and are polite and kind and considerate. It's sort of valued around the world, isn't it? So anyway, food for thought. Hopefully someone who lives here that's experienced some of this stuff, or someone who's been here has experienced some of this stuff, might express it better than I did in the comments. But no doubt they'll have examples. You do some good behaviour. Oh, you're Japanese. There's a good chance that you had that good behaviour happening before you came here. But if they think that you're Japanese because of it, that's fine. That's a positive thing, isn't it? That's a good thing. Because they see that as a compliment, telling you that you're Japanese. Not to say Australian people aren't sometimes nice people. They're not saying that. That's not what they're saying. Anyway, that's more than enough of that rambling. Nice and warm in here now. More videos coming soon.